has laid it down. What a laydown by Dan Harrington there. I don't know that he put his opponent on a gut shot straight draw. All I know is this. He made a great laydown at the river. Saved that $220,000.
Ming the Sting. Hitting a card, taking the chips.
He plays in the highest stakes cash games in the world on a daily basis right here at Bellagio. It's the kind of game, folks, that you can win or lose $500,000 a night in. That's how big it is. We are watching high stakes poker at its finest tonight at the Doyle Brunson North American Poker Championship,
where 4 players remain.
And Vince, these are 4 great poker players, truly have terrific minds for the game of poker. Ming and Don Zuen, longtime high stakes cash game players. Dan Harrington and Gavin Smith, 2 of the finest tournament players in the world.
No doubt about it. Back down on the table, Don Zuen throws away a 9-7.
Gavin Smith on the button, peeks down at a 5 deuce. But he is going for his holster, Vince. He is raising the pot, makes it $160,000 to go with a 5 deuce.
Playing the junk card into Ming, who has King 9. He can't play. Last one to defeat here would be Dan Harrington in the big blind with 10-7. Will he stick around?
He looks down at Gavin. And there you have it, folks. That's what the game is about. Betting with nothing and taking down pots. It shows you it's not about the cards. It's a people game that is all about betting. There you saw Gavin Smith raising in position with a 5 deuce and picking up that pot.
And I'll tell you something, it always feels better when you have a nothing hand and you win with it rather than having kings or a big slick.
Oh, you are right about that, Vince.
All right, right back down on Gavin, the thief. He's got Queen 9 this time and he folds it.
Not for me.
And look at this. Ming Lee has picked up the same hand Gavin just had, a 5 deuce. And he's capping his cards, and he's also going to raise it looks like, Vince. Incredible.
Wants to get fancy with it. Yes, he goes up to 120,000.
This is amazing poker you're watching, folks.
Dan going out with Queen 7.
Now Don Zuen folding his hand. So for the second consecutive time, the guy on the button raised in position with a 5 deuce and picked up the pot.
It's just a nice pressure play by Ming the Sting. You know, Mike, image is everything at the poker table. You know, and part of great poker image is having a great nickname as well at the table.
Well, Texas Dolly is certainly one of the most famous nicknames in poker, and it sure served him well over the years.
And in tonight's WPT Academy, Courtney Friel takes a look at what it takes to make a great poker nickname.
Devilfish, the Master, the Dragon. Whether playing a major WPT event or even a home game, having a great poker nickname can make all the difference in the world.
A good poker nickname should sort of help create the image.
I was a young boy when you started counting in chips.
Devilfish. It's a cool name because he's a bad boy. You know, he's like all rough and tough. Devilfish.
Instead of devilfish, I could always call him tuna fish because he's a fish.
Because who would ever remember Elliot if they remember Devilfish?
Bye, fish.
You know, a nickname usually sticks because you have some attributes that coincide with the nickname.
All you can eat, baby.
Men the Master made sense because he was always teaching people, so they'd call him Master. People always called me Kid because when I started playing poker, I was 17 and there was nobody under 40. This was before the big boom. So Kid just kind of stuck.
Since no one else was willing to name me, I decided to name myself. My nickname is Action Dan. Everyone laughed because I was perceived as not being action. I wanted to enforce that belief in their minds in case I ever decide to bluff.
So how do you get a great nickname? Well, if you make it to a WPT final table, you can bet we'll find one for you.
Look at Howard.
Looks like a professor of poker, doesn't it?
Isabel No Mercy Mercier.
Got it.
You got a hitman, Ted Forrest.
There's a tremendous credit there for Gavin Smith.
I don't think I really need a nickname. I think that Gavin's a pretty good nickname.
Vince, you're good at giving guys names. You know, you've given a couple guys here at this final table a nickname tonight.
Well, I don't know whether it'll stick, but Ming the Sting, perhaps.
I love that, Ming the Sting.
All right. Maybe the Temple of Doom. Who knows? But right now, it's going to be on the Temple. Don Zuen to make a move first, and he is short-stacked.
Lays it down.
And to Gavin with the button. He's got Queen Deuce. Nope. Says, I'm not going to play it.
Over to Ming. He calls with the 9-7 of diamonds.
And Dan Harrington in the big blind with just 10-3.
Well, Vince, he's living up to his nickname here. Action Dan Harrington raising with 10-3 offsuit after his opponent limped in.
He's given us the action. he has been talking about. Makes a nice raise back into Ming.
Well, Ming calls the raise with the 9-7 of diamonds. Now he's calling himself Action Dan, living up to it here, but when you give yourself a nickname, I'm not sure that counts.
Yeah, all right, well, the flop comes up King Jack 6.
Well, Ming quickly checks.
No help to either player.
So Action Dan reaching for chips here, Vince. I'll tell you, if he bets here, the nickname sticks. He is Action. 220,000.
Well, he is going to push Ming the Sting out of this pot. Nicely done by Action Dan.
Well, was it ever? And notice how the power betting once again wins a pot in this game. Dan raised before the flop with 10-3 offsuit. He continued the charade when the flop came King Jack 6. He picks up the pot by betting.
Watching some very strategic poker here from the Doyle Brunson North American Poker Championship.
Doyle Brunson North American Poker Championship. I'm Courtney Friel, and here's what's happened so far in the race for $1 million and a WPT title.
At a table filled with professional players, it was the Temple of Doom Don Suin who quickly destroyed the short stacks of 81-year-old amateur player Tony Grand and Danish champ Jan Sorensen.
And Don Suin cracks a little smile there.
But now it's Don who's sitting short against the respected Action Dan Harrington, high-stakes cash game expert Ming the Sting Lee, and former WPT champ Gavin Smith. But with $1 million and a WPT title at stake, the Temple of Doom may be hard to demolish.
Now back to the boys in the booth, Mike Sexton and Vince Van Patten.
That's the two short stacks, Tony Grand and Jan Sorensen went out early at this final table. These four guys in the same exact chip position as when the final table started. Chip leader Ming Lee, second Dan Harrington, third Gavin Smith, and fourth place Don Suin.
Action on Ming the Sting Lee.
He's got the stingers here, Vince.
Got the weapons of mass destruction, the pair of aces.
He is loving this right now.
How excited he looks.
Well, the blinds and antes have just gone up to 10,000, $40,000 and $80,000 blinds.
That how much there? That 80, right? That 80?
Ming the Sting going to go up to make it 180,000, it looks like.
Well, a massage raise here makes it 180,000 to go.
Dan folds his ace-9 very wisely.
What a laydown by Dan Harrington there.
Dunn going out with 7-3.
Now Gavin Smith, who's in the big blind for 80,000, cost him 100 more to call, and he does so with Jack 10.
Gavin Smith, the potential victim here. Let's watch the first three.
And the flop comes 9-3 deuce, all spades. Gavin is checked. Well, there you see Ming peeking at his cards to see if he has the ace of spade. We know he doesn't because of the WPT cam. Dan Harrington folded it. Well, Ming is going to bet 150,000 with the two aces.
Just a terrible flop for Gavin. He has to go away. And Ming gets a little extra action with the aces, but not as much as you really wanted.
Well, what you really want is a guy to go all in over the top of you when you've got two aces. But these guys are tough poker players. Tough to get money out of any of them. Ming getting a little bit with the two aces there.
Doyle Brunson. I can really learn from him. Every time I play to him, he won it. I've started playing the $24 the more the bigger game. I am the Ming Lee. I am a professional poker player.
Yeah. Four players remain. Don't forget the winner gets over $1 million for this and gets the guaranteed seat at Bellagio at the championship, potentially worth millions more. Action on Don. Don looking down at 10-9. He is short stacked at this point and he has to go out.
Look at this. Gavin Smith has now picked up two aces on the button.
Shuffle that deck.
Back-to-back aces. And Gavin just limps in with the two aces. He is going trapping.
Ming going out. Can he trap the man with the green cap, Dan Harrington? He's got queen 4.
Let me tell you, this is one tough bear to trap right here, Dan Harrington. Dan says, give us a flop. Flop comes ace, 3 deuce. Dan has the gut shot straight draw, but checks. And Gavin Smith with the top set, 3 aces, is now going to bet.
Didn't raise before the flop, and like Mike, you always said, you can't put him on an ace if you didn't raise before the flop.
If Dan doesn't put him on an ace and tries to make a move, he won't like it. But Dan slipping out of the mousetrap there.
Gavin shakes his head there a little bit. That's got to hurt.
Seems like aces all around here, Vinny. No giant pots with him, but at least they're standing up.
Don't forget, we started this event with 420 players. Down to these 4. A dream still alive for these gentlemen.
Just a great final table. A lot of poker talent sitting there right now.
We are on Gavin Smith. He's got the kids game acey-deucey this time.
He's in first position here, but he's reaching for chips. And he's going to raise it. Makes it 230,000 to go.
He is on a rush here. Ming going out with ace-3.
Around to Dan Harrington. He's got ace-jack. He's got the blackjack. He's in the small blind, meaning he's got 40,000 out there.
Here a little bit. Just dropped the ace-9 before. He was kicking himself, thinking maybe that he was going to win that with the 9s.
See what he's going to do with this hand.
Well, come on. He's going to live up to his name. He's Action Dan. Will he give action?
Normally extremely good at making the correct decision when it's his turn.
I raise.
And he is going to raise it. He's coming over the top of Gavin. Gavin's not going to like that.
Interesting raise. Now here, Don Zewin. Look at this. He's got the Godzillas right behind him. Don with a pair of kings.
Wow. Don Zewin in the big blind has got to be loving this. There's only one hand out there that can beat him. That's 2 aces.
And he's got all kinds of chips already in the pot.
Well, Don's only got about 750,000 in chips. It's 665 to call. Can't imagine he's just not going to go all in with this hand. He's taking his time. And incredibly, he just calls. He doesn't go all in. He's going to save himself about 75 or 80,000 in chips.
That is peculiar.
I don't know why.
Don't either. Now back on Gavin with ace-deuce in the big blind. And there goes Gavin. He folds his hand.
Well, a great lay down by him. Dan Harrington has never thrown this hand away now for another 80,000. There's over $1.6 million in the pot right now. So whatever comes out there, you're going to see either one or both of these guys quickly put their last 80,000 in the pot.
Here comes the flop.
Now, Don doesn't want to see any aces, I can tell you that. That's come 9-7-7.
What do you got?
And that is good for Don Zewin. His king still out in front.
40.
Well, Dan's going to bet it.
I think it's 80.
And Don's certainly going to call it quickly. No way either one of them is going to get away from this hand for that kind of money. Don turns up the 2 kings. Dan Harrington is in the vice right now. He could backdoor straight, though. It could come 8-10, or it'd make a jack-high straight, or it could come jack-jack, but those are long shots.
Just a big opportunity for Don, the Temple of Doom, to double up here. Look at this. He manages to smile.
Well, why not? He's in great shape, and he knows it.
Here we go with a turn.
Well, it's a queen. So what that means is Dan Harrington must catch the last ace in the deck to win this pot and knock Don Zewin out of this hand. Well, Don's still holding his breath. Does not want to see a bullet because that would shoot him down in cold blood.
And here it is.
Nope, it's a 10. So that's going to do it. Don Zewin wins a monster pot there, nearly $1.8 million.
Dan Harrington hit by the stun gun.
I like the way Dan Harrington played that hand. He had Gavin Smith read perfectly. Unfortunately for Dan, Don Zewin picked up a monster hand in the big blind. He just can't help it.
Don Zewin, the joy just coming out from him. Stay tuned. We're coming back with more on the World Poker North American Poker Championship. The godfather of poker hosting this event here on the World Poker Tour. 4 players remain, and the antes are going up to 15,000, and the blinds are going to be 60 and 120,000.
This is some high-stakes poker you're going to see now, folks. They're putting 240,000 in there every 4 deals. You've got to get in and play, but it's anybody's tournament. They've all got over $1 million in chips. Let's get back to the action.
Right now, on Don, he's got King 9.
Lays it down.
Down to Gavin with the button. He's got Dolly Parton, a 9 and a 5.
They're suited. Gavin's going to take a